Madam President, this conference and the endorsement of this so-called declaration are not a serious attempt at peacemaking. These are procedural tactics, a misuse of this assembly to force through by the back door what cannot stand at the negotiating table. Once again, we see externally drafted texts rushed forward without transparency or any debate in this assembly. This erodes the legitimacy and trust of the UN. This one-sided declaration will not be remembered as a step toward peace, only as another hollow gesture that weakens this assembly's credibility. This is not diplomacy. It is theater, a carefully staged performance for headlines, not for peace. It doesn't shorten the war, it prolongs it. It does not weaken Hamas, it rewards them. It does not advance negotiations, it undermines them. And so we must ask, who benefits? Not the hostages in Hamas captivity, not the people of Gaza, not those who pray for real peace. The only beneficiary is Hamas. Consider France's recent pledge of statehood. Hamas welcomed it, praising, and I quote, they called it the political and moral pressure it puts on Israel. When terrorists are the ones cheering you, you have to ask yourself what you are doing. Some members of this assembly treat this conference like a virtual reality game. You put on the headset and imagine peace is imminent, but it is only an illusion, entirely detached from reality. The reality is that Hamas still rules parts of Gaza, armed, entrenched, and vowing to strike again. To pretend otherwise is not diplomacy. It is delusion. You called in this so-called declaration for Hamas, and I quote, to end its rule in Gaza. Very nice, very impressive. This assembly may not openly speak it, but all of you know it. Israel is expected to remove Hamas from the equation. It's very nice that you mention it, but who is going to do it? It is on our shoulder to make it happen. We are left to do the real work, to eliminate Hamas, the ultimate obstacle to peace. And make no mistake, Hamas is the biggest winner of any endorsement here today. By the time the speeches conclude, they will congratulate you. They will declare this is the fruit of October 7th. This is their reward for storming across our borders, slaughtering entire families in their homes, burning people alive, kidnapping children and the elderly, raping women, and dragging hundreds into captivity. And now, with this declaration, they learn a deadly lesson that such savagery brings political reward. That lesson is as dangerous as any weapon. And if anyone doubts that Hamas will continue down this path, look no further than this week's terrorist attack at a bus stop in Jerusalem. Innocent civilians gunned down as they waited for their morning commute. That is the proof. Hamas and its allies will not stop. They do not seek peace. They test again and again whether terror still pays. Madam President, this declaration is one-sided. It does not designate Hamas as a terrorist organization, and it dares to equate the release of Israeli hostages with the release of convicted terrorists. Shame on you. This meaningless political maneuver takes place while innocent people remained blindfolded in Gaza's tunnels, starved, tortured, waiting. Meanwhile, many members of this assembly blindfold themselves by choice. By endorsing this declaration, you cover your own eyes. You choose not to see the truth, to ignore the facts. Israel will not wear that blindfold. We see the hostages. We see the terror. We see this declaration for what it is, a political gesture, an act of theater. Madam President, we will not allow Hamas to win in this assembly what it could not gain on October 7th.
I thank the distinguished representative of Israel, and now I give the floor to the distinguished representative of the United States.
Thank you, Madam President. Colleagues, U.S. opposition to this resolution should come as no surprise. The United States opposes the New York Declaration, as we oppose the high-level international conference for the peaceful settlement of the question of Palestine and the implementation of the two-state solution and the resolution that mandated it. GA action on the New York Declaration is yet another misguided and ill-timed publicity stunt that undermines serious diplomatic efforts to end the conflict. Make no mistake, this resolution is a gift to Hamas. It is likewise cynical, transparently driven by the domestic politics rather than a serious foreign policy agenda. As Secretary Rubio has noted, progress in negotiations aimed at achieving a ceasefire over the summer collapsed when one of the states organizing the conference encouraged Hamas's intransigence by announcing its intention to recognize a conjectural Palestinian state. Far from promoting peace, the conference has already prolonged the war, emboldened Hamas, and harmed the prospects of peace in both short and long term. The United States will not participate in this insult to the victims of October 7th, but we will continue to lead real-world efforts to end the fighting and to deliver a permanent peace. We should be focused on how to end the war and eliminate and disarm Hamas. This war could end tomorrow if Hamas was disarmed, released hostages, and surrendered. But Hamas continues to refuse. Today's resolution is yet another counterproductive gesture that only rewards Hamas, drags out the war, and undercuts the very diplomatic efforts to free the hostages and end the suffering in Gaza, which the New York Declaration claims to support. The declaration this resolution endorses is merely another example of the stale thinking that has led to failure after failure in the Middle East peace negotiations for decades, but remains prevalent in the halls of the United Nations and among too many of its members. The declaration engages in disturbing moral equivalence and fails to recognize the reality that Hamas's terrorism on October 7th was the reason this war was necessary, and its refusal to free the hostages and lay down its arms is the reason this war continues. The version of the declaration being voted on today even continues to contain language endorsing the so-called right of return, which would mean the demographic death of Israel as a Jewish state. For these reasons, the United States urges delegations to join us in voting against the resolution. Thank you.
I thank the distinguished representative of the United States.